Hello, welcome back to the channel, friends. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And my Instagram is right here, duties_daggers, so follow me over there too. I would appreciate it. So, today we're talking about a very, very smart guy. This is, we're approaching genius levels of smartness here. Way above my level of smartness, and this guy's name is Andrew Demko. If you're familiar with the whole knife world, you might know that name. You probably do if you are involved in the knife world at all. Um, he's a designer. He's a knife designer who has made some of his own knives under his own name, Demko Knives, and he's also done quite a few designs with cold steel as well. Um, Most of the knives on here on the table are cold steel knives, except this one here in the middle. As I understand it, I could be wrong. Correct me if I am. Andrew Demko worked for Cold Steel for quite a while, and created some really awesome knives with them, and invented a few things too. And then he kind of split off and started doing his own thing. Started making his own custom knives, um, the Demko 8020. Bunch of different versions of that knife that he was doing, custom, building everything in his shop. Um, and then he came out with a Riot made Demko 8020.5, which is right here. It's a little bit smaller, but much more affordable because it's not made in his shop, it's made overseas. And it's an amazing knife. This is one of my favorites still. Um, Now, something all these knives have in common is he has invented the locking mechanisms for each of these knives, which is pretty freaking nuts. Typically in the knife world, we have liner locks, right? We have something like this. It's a liner lock. We have frame locks, something like this, invented by Chris Reeve. We have what else we got? We got compression locks, basically a liner lock, but just flipped around, and it's on the back side of the knife now. We've got button locks and others, but these here on the table don't have any of those. These are all their own thing. And he's invented each and every one of these, which is extremely impressive. So first, let's look at this. This is the Cold Steel Code 4 in S35VN steel and aluminum handle scales. It's a pretty big knife, hollow ground. And the locking mechanism here looks like a back lock, but it's actually a triad lock. Now, it's very similar to a back lock in the way that it functions, right? There's a little thing right on the back here, a little pushy button area. You push that down, it raises up the back spring right here, and there's a little hook deal pushing down into the tang of the blade, locking it in place. You push this down, that lifts up. You're able to close the blade. But the way he did it was a little bit different. There's different stuff going on here that's makes it much stronger than your typical or classic backlock. I don't know exactly what's going on in here. I think what it is kind of like a more of a hook shape. There's also a stop pin, which a lot of backlocks don't have. So whatever he did in there, I'm not going to be explaining really how these locks really work. I'm just wanted to show them to you. I'm not, I don't know a whole ton about the actual function of them, but it's a very strong locking mechanism. Also, you can see it here on the Tough Light, and I believe it's on most cold steel knives, at least most folding cold steel knives. They have a new locking mechanism now that is actually kind of similar to the Shark Lock, but apparently Demko did not invent that one, which, I don't know. I haven't really looked at it yet. And then we have the Scorpion Lock, another cold steel knife that he made with them. He also has a custom version of this, though, that he makes in his shop. Better blade steel, this is full titanium, this lock bar here, instead of aluminum. Sometimes he does full titanium ones. Sometimes this will be micarta, titanium liners, the whole deal. Custom made knife, very expensive. But this is the cold steel version of his design and his scorpion lock. So how this one works is we have this lock bar here that has a spring down in here pushing it this way. There's a little bar right there. As you open the knife, it slides along the tang right here, and then when it reaches a point, it's going to fall into this slot right here, locking the knife in place. Very smart locking mechanism. Very simple, but I don't think any of us would have thought of this if he hadn't done it already. You know? And the way you disengage it, you just pull this back and let the blade fall. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can kind of wedge your thumb in there. You can, the way I do it, I take my pointer finger and just kind of stick it in back here. You can do it this way. You can kind of push down like that as you're pulling back with these fingers down here. However you want to do it, this is how I do it, and it's really easy. It's almost as easy as a compression lock. It's a very heavy-duty locking mechanism. Another cool thing about it is as you gripping the knife, it's actually adding the strength to the lock. You're gripping it. The only way this blade can close is if this lock bar comes out this way. And if you're gripping it, putting pressure on that, there's absolutely no possible way it can pop out this way. You're squeezing it. So I really like this one. This is a pretty new purchase for me. I had the light version a while back, but now I finally have the regular version in S35VN, which I really, really like. I have some aluminum scales coming for this actually too from OG Goat, which I'm really stoked on. So another lock that he invented. Then we have probably the most popular, the shark lock. This locking mechanism is one that he uses on his custom 8020s as well. And it's freaking amazing. It might be one of the best, at least, yeah, I'd say one of the best locking mechanisms out there. At least it's one of my favorite. I know it's a lot of people's favorite. The way that it works, it's almost like a back lock or triad lock, but there's a tab back here that you kind of pull back with your pointer finger rather than pushing down back here. There's this little lock bar that moves right here. There's a spring right here that's pushing it up as the blade opens. This bar has like a little kind of almost like a hook deal on it. Blade opens, it pops in to a little spot in the tang, and rock solid lock up. Now the only way to get it to close is you pull that back out of the way and the blade can fall shut. It's great. It's fun to use, and this knife makes some of the best like kind of metallic click clacky noises I've ever heard from a knife. It's just so enjoyable. Now the major downside to this knife is it doesn't have much of a detent. That's just the way the shark lock is. There's no detent. So you can't fail it. But once you get used to it, I really don't have a problem with this knife at all. As far as the detent goes, does not bother me. It would be cool if it was a little crisper, and there is something in the works to fix that issue on these knives, which is pretty crazy. I don't know how much I can say about it, but it is coming. This is the flat titanium scaled version in 3V blade steel, but it also comes in more affordable options in D2 and AUS 10 with G10 handle scales. And now there's also some G10 versions in S35VN as well. There's also a textured titanium version in 3V, and it's just a really amazing knife. I love this knife. The ergonomics are there. It's a relatively thinner knife, so it doesn't fill out your hand as much or as well as maybe the something bigger like the 8015. But aside from that, the ergos are amazing. There's no hot spots whatsoever. Choke up spot, very similar to the 8015 here. I really like how he does these choke up spots. we have this little point here. It's not too pronounced, but it's there. So when you're choked back, you feel nice and kind of braced up to that. But it's also really easy to just go right over that and choke up if you want. Nice roomy spot right there too. Same on both of these knives. I love choke up spots. I'm a big choke up spot guy. So that's great. The stone washing on this blade is one of my favorites I've ever seen. Let me see if I can get it in the right angle here. Yeah, it's just really nice. I put a copper thumb stud on mine just for fun. I saw them on, where did I see them? I think Flightanium had them. I thought it would look cool. I have a Lynch Northwest deep carry clip on this one. This is just a badass knife. This is the shark's foot version. There's also a drop point. I think the shark's foot looks better and is more my jam. You know, I like sheep's foots quite a bit. It's relatively thick behind the edge. It's not the sliciest blade, but it'll absolutely get work done. So there you go. Now think about this for a second. This guy invented 3 different badass locking mechanisms. I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you gave me years to come up with a brand new locking mechanism that was heavy duty, tough, and fun, fidgety to use, I couldn't do it, man. I could not do it. This guy's done 3, and maybe he'll come out with another one at some point. I don't know. I'm sure he could. It's crazy, dude. It's really crazy. In a world dominated with liner and frame locks, he came up with something completely new, which is really, really sweet, man. The only other guy I can think of that's come up with a completely new locking mechanism is Brian Winters with the Factor, the mag lock. This is a completely new locking mechanism as well, using magnets. Aside from that, can you guys think of any new locking mechanisms that have been invented? I'm trying to think. I don't think there is any. Is there? I don't think so. Unless I'm missing one. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing one. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I am. Regardless, even if there is one or two more, for one guy to have 3 is gnarly. I mean, this guy is super innovative, and just the way that he must have a super mechanical mind. I'm sure he can see every little piece that's going on in these knives in his head. And then he just has to translate it to paper or on the computer or whatever, however he does it. It's just gnarly. It's freaking gnarly. I really like how he always uses big fat stop pins. I guess this would be the stop pin in this case. A cool, interesting thing about the 8015 is we have external stops, but they're stops for the closed position. You can see them on either side of the tang right here. Usually when we have external stops, they stop the blade in the open position right there, like on the XM18. Here, the open position is stopped by the locking mechanism, but it needs something to stop the blade from over closing. So we have these little external stops right there. That's kind of cool. Even on the Triad lock, we have big old fat stop pins in there. Yeah, it's cool, man. This one, yeah, I mean that's still even pretty big for a small little knife, for sure. You can find cold steel videos of them testing the strength of this locking mechanism, the Triad lock, and man, it's pretty crazy. I forget exactly how much weight they hang off of this thing, but they clamp the blade in something and then they hang weights off of it, and the amount of weight that it can take before it fails is gnarly. I mean, sometimes the blade would even break before the locking mechanism would. It's just nuts, man. It's honestly kind of overkill. Nobody really needs that much strength in their locking mechanism, but it makes you feel good to know that your knife can handle it. Here's another cold steel with a Triad lock, the Recon 1. This one's even a little bit bigger. This thing's freaking sweet, dude. Huge knife. You know, these are actually really smooth, and it's kind of hard to do without cutting yourself. I think if I let it drop there, it'll stop, my finger will stop it, and you can swing it shut. But yeah, as soon as you push that, release it, it just falls shut. Scorpion lock's really smooth too, man. Look at this. Pull this back, almost falls shut. You give it like a little nudge right at the top. Absolute fall shut. And this is on washers too. Really, really cool, man. I would love to one day have a Demko custom, 8020, even a 8015 or an 8010. The 8010 is the other cold steel designed or cold steel made Andrew Demko design that I don't have. This one, by the way, I should have made that more clear. The Code 4 was not designed by Andrew Demko. It's just using the lock that he invented. But there is another cold steel Demko design, the AD10, that I don't have here. That's a really badass big knife. It's more similar to the 8015 than the 8020. I mean, you can tell his designs, his cold steel designs, because they say, it's got his initials, AD. So it's the 8010, 8015, which I have here, and the 8020.5. The 8020s are his custom-made full-size versions of this knife. So, just a really awesome dude. I mean, I don't know anything about his personality. I've heard he's a nice guy. I haven't heard anything negative about him as a person. So that's a good sign. And he just makes badass shit. That's all you can really say about the man. At least all that I can say about the man, because I don't know him. He makes badass shit, dude. Are you freaking kidding me? So, anyways, just wanted to make a video kind of, I don't know, just being amazed at what he's done. It's freaking gnarly. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments which of these knives you would like to own if you don't own any. And let me know if you own any Demkos, which ones you own. I'm stoked to get those aluminum scales on this guy. It's going to look so good. The only negative thing I have to say about this knife, and it's not a super negative, but this texture is really rough. Almost too rough, I think. And the pocket clip as well. It works fine, but with my thick seams on my Carhartt pants, the seam can get underneath here. So I have to use two hands to kind of lift up the clip and get it into my pocket. I might look into aftermarket clips for this. I did a little bit of looking, and I really couldn't find any. At least not from like the normal places I would go for a clip. Lynch Northwest didn't have any. MXG didn't have any. The only places I could find some were like on Etsy. So I don't know why that is. If anybody knows of a good spot to get a 8015 deep carry clip, let me know. Or it doesn't even have to be deep carry, just something that would work better with my pants maybe. Because this is absolutely a work knife, and I carry this a lot at work. So I have cut test videos with all these knives. In fact, not the Code 4, but I do have one on the Recon 1. I have cut test videos on all these guys. And all my cut test videos are in a playlist. You can go look through there and see if there's any that you want to watch. There's quite a few at this point. And please like the video before you head out. I love you guys. See you in the next one. Adios.